Now these are my trouser support, Tim. You can get another Tim in there, so you could. What do you think of that?
You get one down each leg if you're lucky.
Just use your imagination here, folks. Okay. So here we have. He's put on the trousers, okay, which weren't particularly very nice. You could Coco the Clown there. Trousers were actually meant to be worn. Do you mind if I touch this here? They were actually worn about here. And that's where they would wear up to. Now, feel how soft they are. Tell the lovely people how soft they are.
Like sackcloth.
They're called jean wool. They're made of really cheap grade wool. Now, a lot of people think that the Confederates wore grey, a bit like what Roy has over here. The uniform that Roy has on would actually be a late Confederate uniform. The top part of it, the coat, as in that the Confederates ran out of material. Basically, the Confederates were being strangled and strangled and strangled. There was a blockade around the south. It was called Operation Anaconda, and anything that they could find, they basically got. And so this was cloth brought in from England. It was actually English Army cloth. You'll find here another jacket. Do you notice the different colours that's here? Yeah. And if you see a good Confederate impression is one that's scruffy, I actually take my coat and I do this with it, and I'm finished with it on purpose and bang it in the bag because I'm looking for the most scruffy look that I can get. So this is another colour. And basically what happened here was it started off, they think, grey, and what happened was that they used natural dyes, maybe nuts and whatever, to try and dye it. And what happens is that the dyes oxidized and it turned this kind of a rustic colour, would you say? Yeah, so a rust colour. So yeah, so we see here now, we're going to put on now, he would have wore a shirt on top of this.
Did they say the shirts were made in Derry?
I don't know. They couldn't have been well.
Yes, there were old stays, yes. Before the embargo took in.
Yeah. So he would have wore a shirt. Now a shirt was considered underwear. Okay, so you'd never have walked out in your shirt. It was seen as disrespectful. You'd have wore a waistcoat over your shirt. But we'll just pretend he's wearing a shirt and waistcoat. Now feel how heavy this is. Tell people how light it is.
Oh, it's extremely heavy.
Stick that on. It's got a cotton lining. Okay. And again, this is more of a cotton cloth again, so we're seeing a different sort of cloth. Let's see if you can.
Love the trousers.
Love the trousers. Maybe this doesn't work. Can you button it up for me, Tim?
Sure.
Okay. Now notice we have our buttons. These are actually Yankee buttons. Okay. Again, we have all sorts of buttons. On this coat, I have a mixture of infantry buttons that came from England, with a sort of an English script I on it for infantry. I have wooden buttons because your buttons fell off. And what did you do? Your buttons fell off. Could you go down and buy some more buttons? You just got lucky. On my officer's chaplain coat, I have actually North Carolina buttons. And normally what would happen is that each group would wear the button of their state. So here we have Tim here. He's wearing his coat. He's got his shoes on.
He's nearly got his trousers.
He's nearly got his trousers sorted out. I had a pair of brogans to bring with me. I left them behind today, but they're basically big heavy boots. And these guys walk for nearly 50 miles or 30 miles at a time. The next thing to go on, let's see, we'll put on is his haversack. Okay? Now, basically this little bag, and I have one here, your life was carried in your haversack. Your food was carried in your haversack. The thing is, there was no stretch and seal during the American Civil War. And if you were given a piece of pork, you rolled it up maybe in a wee piece of muslin cloth like this, and you stuck it at the bottom of your haversack. And you walked around all day, and the flies crawled around the blood that had dripped in and the juice that had poured out of the pork. And basically, you smelt these bags before you actually seen them. So there were basically, people didn't know anything about bacteria back then. So where's your left hand side? That's on. So you put on your bag, okay, so he's ready. The next thing you put on to try and keep everything together is his belt. And you know, in the modern army, you have these load carrying systems now where they would carry their ammunition and all sorts of things on these sort of a jacket affair. Well, this was basically that. Now, on the belt was some very important things. Everything on the business end of firing the gun was on your right hand side. Now, a lot of these belts would have been put on a strap, so you would have had a strap with the cartridge box would have been put on a strap, so that would have been hanging down. And what the belt did, it brought it in nice and tight, that it wasn't flapping around. So you stick this on, okay? Roy's going to give assistance here. Okay.
I think he's in desperate need over there.
He's in desperate need before his trousers fall down, Tim, do you know that? Right, pull that in nice and tight as you can. Okay, can you get it? Yeah? Just about. Just about. Okay. Now, oh, your cartridge boxes. This is what's wrong.
Alright.
Pretend that that's the other way around. Alright. So you notice here that he has here a little pouch that should be the other way around. And in that he carries these little cartridges. And the cartridges were used for the muskets. I'm going to show you this later. Or little, caps that we're going to use for this. He has a cartridge box that he carries 40 cartridges, rolled up paper cartridges. And I have sort of an idea of what one would have possibly looked at. And inside you carried the powder, you carried the ball, and this is what you used to fire your musket. We'll bring this round to the left a bit, Tim. Can you? Try and... Roy, can you help him there? Okay. Just pull out the bayonet for me when you're there. Okay.
Try not to kill him with it.
This is his bayonet. Okay. Now, you can stick that one in. I'm going to put on my own. Because all these bayonets kind of, this is the time before mass production. And kind of everything fitted to the gun. So, this is the bayonet. Okay. You have about 14 inches of steel.
Is that very heavy?
Heavy enough, you know. They tended not to wear slings, and when you marched like this. And then, basically, I don't want to poke anybody, I'll take this off to show you. I don't want to stick anybody. I want to talk to the bayonet about the bayonet very slightly. So basically, you were at this, which was shoulder arms, and this is the way you would come. You would march around like this. And then if you're on the march, they would say right shoulder shift. So basically, you bring it up like this, bring your hand down here, and you march like this. And it's very comfortable, believe it or not. Now, you would keep this up, tight up into the air, because if you're marching with a bayonet on the back of it, there's a guy behind you, so you really don't want to put his eye out. He wouldn't appreciate that very much. So you're marching around like this, and they would use this. There's other manoeuvres, trail arms. You bring it down to the shoulder again. Trail arms was like this. You would, if you were going through a field, through scrub, you would carry it like this. Port arms, I don't know, does any sharp spans? No? This would kind of a Napoleonic thing, so if they were moving across a piece of land, they would carry it like this. So this is what, you're carrying this all the time. So remember, it is heavy, so you're bound to get tired. The British are, now, they used a thing called Hardy's manual for, I think it was tactics and drill. The Union didn't like this because Hardy was a Confederate, but at the start of the war they were using the same manual, and they, I think, adapted again a bit like what we have at the English style, where they carry in the north like this. They would march like, I think, like this, yeah, like this. So we have his musket, okay? You hold the musket. We'll get your hat on, okay? Now, does he look good? Oh, we forgot his canteen. We forgot his canteen. Now, I have a couple of canteens here. And they're all different. At the start of the war, a Confederate, and even to the end of the war, would have used this. It's like a barrel canteen. Basically, it's a little barrel. The problem is, you have to keep them filled with water. If you don't keep them filled with water, they leak because the joints separate, okay? So we'll put on this for you. Now you always put your canteen on last. Why do you think that is? You're tired, yeah, you're marching, you need your canteen. So you take it off, you take a drink, you put it back on again. This was the only water you really carried. Now then we moved on to this style of a canteen, which is a tin canteen. And it's covered with a woolen cover. Why do you think they put the wool on?
For it goes.
No. Any ideas? Keep it cool. You dipped it in, the wool got wet, and then it kept it cool. Now the problem, you mentioned rust. These are tin. What does tin do? Rust. So they used to take beeswax, and they used to heat the beeswax, and they used to pour it into this, and they used to swirl it around a lot, and it used to cover it with beeswax. So when you were drinking this, you were getting pond water, you were getting some beeswax, some rust, and a bit of tin. Isn't that lovely?
And then the cork hasn't gone
A
off.
bit of cork. And probably had gone off, probably the cork came, I would say. Now, think of this. The Yankees, this is more akin to a late war Union canteen, which is called a bullseye canteen. Mass production, they dropped the tin. But when they found these, what do you think they did? Picked them up. Because the wood tasted sweeter, a lot of them made out of cherry wood, apple wood, all sorts of different woods. And they said it even flavoured the water. Plus it was a bit of a trophy, and you'll find a lot of these are left. Men would put their names in their canteens. Sometimes they would maybe decorate their canteens, but they put their names on their unit, because when you send somebody down to the river to bring back, you know, you want your own canteen back, don't you? So what you'll find is that some people would have carved their names into them, and then a Union soldier would come along, they'd scribble out the name, and they wrote their own name, captured at, by, and put their own name on it. So this is our soldier. Now, can I show you how to fire? Okay, can I have the gun again? Now, imagine a line of about 100 men in a company, okay? 2 lines. And their officer would shout out to load. The minute a person heard load, they would take their gun. It's a bit like ballet. They would place it here. Now this is late war. They would put the back here, sort of like an L shape. Put the gun out here. They would take this paper cartridge out of their cartridge box. There's nothing in this. They said we had permission from the police to show you. I think I was telling somebody earlier on to show you how to fire this live outside. I thought you would enjoy that, and the police had no problem with it. Fortunately, the hospital said we couldn't do it. So there we go. So you have a paper cartridge. You tear the cartridge, and believe it or not, one of the criteria for the Civil War soldiers to pass your medical was that you had at least 2 teeth that you could bite this cartridge with. It's true. So you tear the cartridge, spit it out, okay? Inside it there's some powder. Pour the powder. At the other end there's the ball. Seat the ball. You would then, I'm not going to do it, you would then put the cartridge down as well, and it acted to seal the barrel for a good shot. You then withdraw your rammer, and you give it 2 rams at least. Catch your rammer, put back your rammer, and you use your finger to put back your rammer. Any ideas why you use your little finger to put back your rammer?
In case there's a fire.
In case there's a fire in here. It's black powder, and these things sometimes went off. So if you put this down with your little finger, maybe the worst will happen, you'll lose your little finger. You'll never play the piano again, but you'll have most of your hand. If you do this, lost your hand, yeah? So then, you bring the gun up here to your side. You bring the gun to half cock. Now half cock is actually your safety position, because if your gun's at half cock, it, by theory, shouldn't go off. You then, out of your pouch, now I have a little cap here. It's a bit like a big cap. I'm going to fire this, okay? So there's going to be a bit of a bang. It's not going to be too loud. So if you're scared of loud noises, put your fingers in your ears, okay? You would take this little cap out, which is basically like, you know, kids, what they play with, little caps, but it's just a wee bit bigger, and you put this on the nipple, and then you would back to shoulder arms. They would know that you're ready to fire. The order would be given to ready. I'm going to turn this way. Roy, could you just move? Health and safety. There's nothing in this, but just... The order would be to make ready. You bring the gun to here, and you pull her back to full lock. The order would be given to aim. The company would aim, and then fire. That was a little bang.
There was no powder going on.
There was no powder. If I fired this with powder inside, okay, basically there would be a flame that would go out a good
3-4 feet now.
Yeah, 3 or 4 feet. A massive flame. I'm not going to fire it again. But can you imagine 100 of those going off? Can you? Can you imagine the powder firing up, the noise? The powder's black, it's dirty. It tastes, do you know, it smells, I'm sorry to say this, but it smells like really bad farts. That's what it smells like. Or do you know, have you ever smelled chicken, dirty chicken? That's what it smells like. Or eggs. And the noise.
So as they're firing, the others are firing at them as well.
They are indeed. And basically they just stood in 2 rows. At the start of the war, they were using Napoleonic tactics. A musket could fire roughly, a smoothbore musket could fire roughly 100 yards. Okay, and the reason they fired in mass was it was like a shotgun effect. So if you fired one musket, the chances is that it wouldn't hit your mark very well. It was purposely made to make it load easier. The barrel was bigger than the ball, and when you fired out the ball, it rattled and rattled and rattled, and when it came out at the end, it was anybody's guess where it would land.
Would they have staggered the firing in a line?
They would have done. Now there was a number of ways of firing. At the start, then, as the Civil War progressed, these turned into rifle muskets, and they used a thing called a mini ball. Now, the last time I was here, I had a video and showed you what a mini ball could do. It was somebody firing it into a piece of ballistic gel, and this was a solid piece of lead, a soft piece of lead, and when it was fired, it tumbled in the air. But it was extremely accurate. Your musket could then fire out to 300 to 500 to 1,000 yards at the very most. But the commanders didn't work this out very well. So, as I say, Ken, they're all standing in a line. Now, what they would try and do, they would fire by company. So everybody would fire at once, a good volley that would put them down fast. They would fire by file, which the front rank, you would come to the front. Can you stand here, Tim? Okay, so the 10 in the musket, and I'm standing behind. So front rank would fire, and then the order would be given, rear rank fire. And what I do is I come slightly over him. Now remember, this is at his ear, okay? So I'm here, I touch him to let him know I'm here, and I come out slightly, and then I fire. Another thing, they would fire by file. Fire by file, is it fire by file? I think it is. Whereas basically, along the file, so basically, I fire, Tim fires, the next guy fires, and then by the time he gets to the line, I've loaded it in. So, yeah.
You said the later ones have the laid ball.
Yes.
What was in those ones in the earlier ones?
Now, the later ones were using what I call a mini ball or a mini, well, it's actually called a Manet. It was invented by a French officer called Claude Manet. The other ones had a round ball. This was sort of like a conical shaped bullet. Have you heard in the Civil War about, you know, all the amputations that took place and how the butchers of surgeons they were? That's true and it's not true. Because the reality was that if you were hit by this slow projectile, this piece, this mini ball that was moving, it would tumble in the air, and when it would hit my arm, there would be no arm left. It would tumble into the arm, it would smash the bone in the arm beyond repair. If you were gut shot, you had it. There's no way to help you. In fact, it was said that after battlefields they found a lot of soldiers lying with their clothes in a state of disrepair, and they thought that these soldiers were robbed, that people had come around and tried to take their belongings off them. I actually found it wasn't. Soldiers, when they'd been hit, was frantically tearing their clothes off to find out where they'd been shot. And they maybe found out they'd been shot in the stomach, and knew that was it. There was nothing they could do for it. Again, what I said the last time I was here, if you can imagine, this ball, this mini ball is coming towards me, and I'm standing in front of Tim. It goes through me, and it goes into Tim. Now, when I'm marching around in the Civil War, there's no tarmac roads, so my uniform is covered in dust. What do people ride? Back then, horses, yes. What do horses do? Do you ever see a tripping of the colour? Do they wear nappies? No. So basically, the excrement from the horses is in the dust. It's all over my uniform. So this ball has gone through my wool. It's got bits of wool on it. It has bits of horse excrement on it. It has bits of filth on it. It has bits of me on it, and then it goes into Tim. And even if he survives the gunshot and they take off his arm, he'll probably die with infection anyway. So, but feel free to browse and look around. And as I say, just two last things. Roy is here as well with us. He has a lovely knife he wants to show you probably. But this is the bayonet. Now the bayonet is in what sort of shape? Triangle. Any nurses or doctors here? No? Why do you think it could be in a triangle?
Comes out easier?
Yeah, it comes out easier.
You're splitting 3 different ways.
Believe it or not, you can't sew it up. Very difficult to sew a triangular wound. So this was made to basically go in and do the most damage. Now the thing is, in the Civil War, people had become very civilised, and they didn't like bayonets. These were farmers and shopkeepers. They were volunteer soldiers for the march, and there wasn't many bayonet charges in the Civil War. And during the Civil War, this is mostly what a bayonet was used for. Outside your tent. Plus, a lot of the soldiers used to cook on their bayonet. They used to put their piece of pork around their bayonet and put it on the fire, and it would be like a nice spit, and they would turn it around. But right, come on up here right quickly. I'm going to show you this, 2 last things. Show them your knife there. If you come up here, you'll be on.
Yeah. What I have here very quickly, Confederate fighting knife, based roughly on the Bowie, but pretty well everything on this thing was designed to kill or do extreme damage. The D-guard obviously protected your fist. Also made a good set of brass knuckles in a fight situation. Or they quite often would have put a pommel on here on the butt. That was pretty good for smashing somebody's head on. These were also kept so sharp you could shave with them. You could skin and gut whatever you were having for dinner. Or if you were in a situation, you could do a bit of trailblazing. You're slashing pieces off trees. You could cut down the branches to even make your fire to cook your stuff on. So this was an all-round piece of kit.
Now,
pretty lethal.
At the start of the war, did you ever see the old pictures? Go on to Google and Google the pictures, and you'll see the guys and they're all standing like this with their big knives. Did you ever see those pictures? Or maybe in this one. They were very proud of their knives because in the south there was a tradition of knife fighting. People liked their knives, and believe it or not, it came from the Ulster Scots.
Keyword, they blame for everything.
In the Carolinas, basically, if you had an argument with someone, this is how you sorted it out. There was a history of violence and fighting with big knives. See, as the war went on, you have to carry that around with you everywhere. They got rid of it.
A lot of these were bought.
Again, I didn't put it on, but I'll just do it really quickly. This was Tim's blanket. This is what this is a blanket roll. He carried his roll. He maybe has his socks, his shirt, whatever he had, maybe a wee checkers game, a couple of letters into that. And At the start of the war, they had sort of a pack. However, a lot of them got rid of them because they cut into their shoulders, and even the Union soldiers started using a blanket roll like this. Again, at the start of the war, they had pistols. A lot of them ran out and bought pistols. There's that other one, Roy.
Yep.
One of the members here, Roy knows him, has brought a pistol. You'll see all sorts of pistols at the start of the war. To load these pistols, it wasn't a case of...
John, would you like to show us how this thing loads?
I'll just pull the trigger there.
Right.
No, I'm not allowed to do any more buying.
To load these...
And dinner is served.
Right, I'll finish with this. To load these pistols, it wasn't a case of sticking in a cartridge.
Yeah.
You had to, first of all, a bit like your musket, pour a charge of powder down. Then you had to take a ball. You had to put the ball in, just like the ramrod we had. You had to seat the ball. Then you had to bring it to half cock and bring it round. You take out another cap. You put on your cap. You do this 6 times. If you're lucky, you get 6 shots. Okay? If you're unlucky, you could get 1 shot. Because these things, and it's empty, had a tended to chain fire. And this is where a piece or spark, remember we're using black powder, would come out of one of the chambers and ignite all 6 chambers together, and you maybe have lost your hand. Now, this is a copy of a Colt Navy, but it was made, it's a Confederate sidearm. It is a Griswold and Gunnison copy. The Confederacy didn't have enough good quality iron. This is before we had proper stainless steel or proper steel. And so they made these guns out of brass to try and save on the iron. Unfortunately, after a time of use, the brass would weaken, and what do we have? Another bang in our hand. So I could be aiming at my Yankee coming across the field at me, fire, and the only person maybe that gets hurt is me.
And we might get hurt, Oscar, if we don't let these people have
And
their...
with that, I'll say thank you very much, and thank you for listening so well to me.
I don't want to rush you.